Biohacking, all things how to improve your physical state, your physical being. We've got the UK's leading expert on biohacking here. Get ready. This is going to be an incredible episode of The Higher Self. Tim Gray, welcome, and thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, man. So what is biohacking? First things first.
The definition of it by the father of biohacking, Dave Asprey, was to optimize the environment inside of you and outside of you to take control of your own biology. I like to think of it more along the lines of optimizing your life for better mental state, better energy, and ultimately better health and performance.
Got it. And I love that because, correct me if I'm wrong, but the way I see things is, this is something that a human being must take ownership over, because there is so much going on in the world that actually pulls you away from optimum health, optimal mentality. And so, if you were to tell the average person who, maybe is, drinking water out of plastic bottles and going to McDonald's and Taco Bell and, having a hard time sleeping, doesn't work out, like where does all of this begin and why is this important?
Good question.
Yeah.
If we're to think evolutionary just for a second, we lived in nature. We had clean air, we had stream water, we slept with the sun and the moon, we woke when the sun came up, obviously, we didn't have junk light in our faces, we ate food from the land, didn't have 1,000 ingredients per serving. We were basically in harmony with nature, and this is how we evolved. However, now, if you think about the city life, clean air? No. Clean water? No. It adds so many different things to that. Clean food? No, it doesn't even resemble food half the time. I mean, it looks like it and we're addicted to eating it, but it's not through our senses. Do we have time in nature at all? Pretty much. Like, when I speak on stage and I ask for a show of hands, who here has recently had their shoes off and stood in the garden or been on the beach? Once in the last 3 weeks. All of these things tie back to our body working optimally. The planet has magnetic field, is basically electric. And if we don't connect with the ground, we don't get a flow of free electrons, which doesn't complete, let's say, our battery, the negative part of our battery. How can our body work if the electric system isn't working correctly? That's just one. In a city, we have none of this. In fact, it's quite the opposite. So how could we flourish or be optimal, waking with coffee, jumping into an office with blue light, not ever grounding, not having clean air, living in an air conditioned, which is less moisture in the air, dehydrating us? How can we be optimal? So the whole thing comes together with understanding, pick your poison. Do whatever you can to reverse as many of those things as you can. But no, unless you're completely away from the city, it's never going to be optimal. However, one saying that resonated with me a very long time ago when I heard this, made me change my mindset compared to some of my colleagues. The guy goes to the doctor and he says, "Doctor, I want to live forever." And he said, "Okay, do you drink?" "Nope." "Do you smoke?" "Nope." "Do you go skydiving?" "Nope." "Do you eat crappy foods?" "Nope." "Do you have unprotected sex?" "Nope." He goes, "Well, why do you want to live forever?"
Why do you want to live forever?
So the point is pick your poison. I know that I should wear barefoot, 0 drop heels on my shoes every day.
Yeah.
I choose not to, sometimes. Yeah. I choose to have a Negroni from time to time. I choose to eat processed food from time to time. But the thing is, I know that I will never be optimal if I don't hit that at least 90% of the time.
Yeah.
That's essentially what we need to do.
I love that. So much came up for me because this is something that I am very conscious of, right? I want to start with what you said about your feet. It's interesting. I'm wearing a pair of Nikes right now, right? I gotta be honest, I'm not a fan of Nike. I'm not a fan of Nike because I can look down and I can see the inner portion of my foot hanging over the space. Mm-hmm. I can feel my feet crunched up. And when I look at my baby daughter's feet and I touch the middle portion of her foot, her entire foot, all 10 toes goes like this, right? Mm. And yet here we are, my pinky toe is like this. It's all jacked up. You have human beings with massive bunions on their feet. And we, when you start at the foundation of the human being, you start with the feet. And we have been programmed to not be conscious of what we're putting on our feet. And we put on our feet shoes that restrict our feet, which restrict our ankles, which restrict our knees, which mess with our hips, which mess with our lower back, which mess with our necks. And we are walking around oblivious to this fact, not to mention the fact that shoes in and of itself disconnect us from the earth, right? So let's start with the basics. Talk to me about shoes.
It seems so simple and yet it's so complicated when it comes to the feet. You're exactly right. I mean, I wear a particular 2018 model of Nike most of the time, and they're Nike Flyknit Free Run. And what they have is a very flexible base and your toes spread out. And there's also Vivo, Barefoot, and various other brands as well, which talk about the science of this quite a lot. And I actually, one of the biggest learnings I had from wearing barefoot shoes was that I always had tension in my hips. So I had pelvic pain, had to go for trigger point release. Like, for instance, my whole posture was unaligned. And every time I went to a posture specialist, they said, yeah, you just keep on going back until I changed my shoes. And it's only in the last 2 weeks, actually, I started wearing these things because I thought they looked quite funky and warmer in the winter. But the point is that, yeah, it throws everything out and corrects. And for guys, for instance, it's particularly bad for guys to sit all day long, which we know now. It's bad for everyone because it restricts the blood flow to the digestive system and things like that. For guys, sitting down puts pressure on the prostate. Well, also when you're wearing high-heeled shoes too much, you're also throwing your posture out, which can cause pelvic pain, pelvic issues, prostate issues. And we know how prevalent prostate cancer and various things are as a result. So zero drop heel is the way to go, for sure.
What does that mean, by the way?
Zero drop heel means basically you haven't got a heel that is raised at whatever degrees, like Nikes do, because the basketball it's famous because of that. So that brings our posture back into line. Now, for instance, with females wearing high heels, like, don't get me wrong, I'm fine with high heels contextually for my woman to wear, but not all day, every day. I mean, it's completely bonkers.
Terrible.
They look great. Yeah. They do look great. It's like a lot of these things, but as a result, it throws everything out. And if you want health, it's not the way to go.
Yeah.
So zero drop and then toe spread. So for instance, so your toes can spread out almost like their fingers grabbing the ground, like you're saying, like your daughter. Mm-hmm. It's far more important than we realize. And there's various other brands that actually have almost super thin lining on the bottom of the shoe now so that you can actually feel the ground. The problem with that is, and it becomes another issue of the modern world, is that we didn't evolve walking on concrete floors all day long. So if you're wearing barefoot shoes, there's actually nothing that you can feel under your feet because it's just barefoot. And therefore your feet aren't actually grabbing the ground and rocks and grass and sand. So it becomes a twofold issue. So are we correcting a problem but then creating another problem because we're on flat ground the whole time?
Yeah.
So it's complicated. The way that I like to be is actually be barefoot most of the day. And when I'm abroad and I have a home in Mallorca and I spend half my life traveling, I have my shoes off. Even at home, when I'm out of the house, obviously I have to wear shoes, but I try to reverse it and make sure that, I have rugs on the floor so that my feet, my floor isn't just hard flooring everywhere. But it's a conscious effort. It's a real conscious effort.
It really is. I'll give you an example. After I'm done with this show, I got to go Uber home. And I can and this is just a little tip for you guys. I do this to myself, whether it's going to the grocery store or whatever, but I will go walk, 1.5 miles to 2 miles and then grab the Uber versus just, walking out and getting the Uber here. Because think about, before there were cars, we used to have to walk everywhere. And that was just a natural way of burning calories, feeling into our bodies, allowing our lungs to inhale oxygen, and we don't walk anymore. We're always either in a seat or in a car. And it's one of the small ways that you can make a conscious effort. You're going to go to the grocery store, right? You're going to get 2 bags of groceries, park 1/2 mile away, walk to the store, walk with your groceries. Even, you ladies can do this. It'll make you stronger. But these are just small ways in which you could, you can kind of biohack. Would you agree?
But it's actually, yeah, it's very, very good point. And I remember Seth Godin.
I'm actually going to take my damn shoes off because I'm conscious of it now.
So Seth Godin, about 10 years ago, I read him say that his favorite bakery was like a mile across town, and downstairs was like a store, like Walmart or whatever downstairs. He said he could go downstairs and grab a loaf of bread, which is okay, easily, or he could walk across the town and reward himself with a walk and get the bread that he wants and not settle for convenience. And he was saying how convenience is a killer, basically.
For sure.
And it's just really interesting how, like, for instance, and I think if you think about James Clear, Atomic Habits, for instance, this is a great book, a great way of rewarding yourself of putting these things in place. So for instance, okay, I'm going to play Nintendo Switch for an hour or whatever. Okay, but first I'm going to do an hour of reading and then reward myself. And it's the same with, okay, I'm going to go to this grocery store and get groceries, but it's going to be the reward for I've walked X amount of steps to get there. And parking. It's the same with people that drive to the gym, get out of the car park, walk to the gym, do their exercise, get back in the car and drive home again, instead of actually walking any distance, which is just...
That's right. Absolutely.
Seems bonkers.
I love it. The next thing that came up while you were speaking was I've got a buddy in the Dominican Republic. He's found this beautiful piece of land where there's very little Wi-Fi. It feels like the way I can best describe it is it feels like Earth before the humans messed it up. I mean, it's just got that kind of vibe. It's secluded, none of the ultra rich have gone in and destroyed it yet. It's community based. I was marveled at the fact that there are 2 or 3 different hotels in the area. And you can hop around and just utilize the kitchens and all of them. And I was like, but the owner just lets you? And they were like, yeah, we all just share, really beautiful space. But the thing that I noticed the most during my stay there was how my breathing changed, right? Because I was just in nature and all of the noise had settled in, right? How could we as human beings, especially in an inner city like London, New York, Los Angeles, how can we get reconnected to nature?
It's a very good question. In LA, it's quite difficult, especially difficult, I think. I think you have to make peace with that. If you want nature, you can't really be in the city. I mean, it's like one of those prices you have to pay. I mean, I'm just looking actually to move to Portugal, and I'll probably come back for a week every 6 weeks. And it's about the balance. Mm-hmm. I mean, there are things that you can do, such as having a earthing bed sheet, which connects you to the earth part of the wall socket, which gives you the free electrons from the earth instead of having to be barefoot in the garden. You can use red light therapy devices to mimic the sunset, so you're having some of the benefits of the sun if you're spending all day in the office. You can use a reverse osmosis water filter, so you have cleaner water and then remineralize it. But all these things you're doing are fighting the city life, opposed to having that in nature, like it once was. Sure. And I think it's one thing that I really loved about Croatia, especially during 2020 era of when the world shut down. I spent most of my time in Croatia on a beach, working, reading, studying, and I didn't need to do really any biohacking at all. I ate fresh fish from the sea that was caught from the local, So I think it comes back down to pick your poison. And if you want to be in a city, you have to do a lot of stuff to reverse that. Got it. It's like, actually, you could say biohacking is using technology to reverse technology. Yeah,
I love that. You mentioned fresh fish from the sea. This is a process that I have been through myself personally, so I would love to hear your thoughts. And by the way, for you listeners out there, it doesn't matter what I say, what he says. It matters, what you feel in your body, what you feel works for you. But, one of the big things I see out there today is this massive debate between vegan and carnivore. And it's all over social media right now, right? And I've gone through my own process with this, and I'll share that a little bit later. But, when it comes to biohacking and food, what is the predominant thought around food, the food that works best with our bodies? Share with us your thoughts.
Very good question.
Yeah.
As a biohacker, I don't have any medical qualifications, okay? But I have 12 years of study and testing personally of what works for me and what works for my followers and what works for my colleagues and what works for the scientists and authors and everyone that I hired to speak at the summit. It comes down to individualization. What works for you might not work for me.
That's right.
And I have no bias to anything other than health. So when people say, you don't know what you're talking about, or you haven't got any degrees, or you haven't got this, that, and the other, I don't care. I have complete flexibility to do or try anything I want with one goal: health. For me, I tried veganism. I tried it for a year. It was horrendous for me. And when I look on a cellular level, it's a metabolomics test, I had so many deficiencies, it was ridiculous. Now, partly genetics, maybe, partly because I'd had a lot of antibiotics when I was younger for various infections, so my gut bacteria wasn't optimal for digesting these plants, and a lot of the time I wouldn't even digest it at all. I tried full carnivore, and that worked for a while, I think very well.
What is full carnivore?
Full carnivore, meat, eat meat. That's it. And
like meat for breakfast, meat for dinner.
Yep. Yeah.
And not chicken, meat.
Proper meat, yeah.
Okay.
And not processed crap, like, clean cuts and things. That worked well with me for a while, but it becomes very heavy and draining. And, there is the fiber argument that you should have more fiber and blah, 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 blah. And you're missing certain nutrients by not having plants and missing certain nutrients by only having plants. For me, carnivore worked well for a while. It was almost like a gut reset. And I think it's the same with vegan. Try it, do a reset, see if it works for you. If it doesn't, fine, move on, but don't stick to the label of I am a vegan for health when, a lot of people go vegan actually, cut out all the processed meats, all the products, all this stuff. Their health accelerates. They become so amazing being vegan because they've cut out all the processed stuff and they're eating plants, which they don't usually eat plants. And then they start declining. For some people, they thrive, they continue to thrive. Brilliant. I'm very happy for them. Other people, they try carnivore. It's horrendous for them. It's too heavy. It doesn't work for their digestion. The truth is anywhere and everywhere in between for you as an individual. What's best for your health? But do not let the ego stick to a label saying, I am this, which is where most people fail.
I want to dive deep here with you. And I want to open myself up because I feel like there's so much information out there that one of the best ways that we can help our fellow brothers and sisters out there is to share from our story, right? And so I was a vegan for 3 years. But I was a particular kind of vegan in where I would fast for 23 hours every day for 3 years. And I would break my fast with an elixir, an amino acid elixir. It had soy protein, creatine, several amino acids that you obviously need than you get from meat, right? Some psyllium husk, which I love, by the way, for fiber. And I would drink that elixir and then I would have one meal, right? That one meal and that elixir and my little dessert, which was a handful of organic berries and no sugar chocolate, would add up to about 1,000 calories, 1,100 calories. And that's it. That's all I would eat for the entire day. So I was at a calorie deficit based off of what I know my body burns, which is 2,400 to 2,500 calories on an active day, 2,200 on a light day. I was on a 12 to 1,500 calorie deficit per day, which means obviously I was burning fat like a racehorse, right? Now, here is what happened. What happened was that I reached my lifelong goal of getting ripped. I was shredded. I had an 8-pack, not a 6-pack, right? Veins all over the place. My jaw and my face was a little, sucked in. And so I did it. I hit my goal, right? But then if I'm honest, the side effects of this were a couple, and they were numerous. Number one, my sleep was horrendous. And my sleep was horrendous because I realized that on top of diet and on top of genetics, we have to understand what our energy is like. And so I'm very air, which means my brain is always going all over the place. So if I don't have enough grounding at night, I'm going to stay up all night, right? Number two, and this is honest to God truth, I was going to the chiropractor probably twice a week because my lower back would hurt from all of the lifting that I was doing. And I honestly believe my kidneys were hurting as well from maybe from the supplements, right? Which that's just intuition telling me.
That's
right?
very common, very, very common.
Yeah. It's just intuition that's kind of saying, and then number three, though I was ripped, I felt too light. Like there's a certain feeling I like to have, and that is like a strength and a solidness of my body. Because right, wrong, or indifferent, I like to know that if I'm walking down the street and someone fucks with my family, I can handle myself. You know what I mean?
Nailed it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that very important for me. Very, very important for me. And so then I switched, and I've been eating meat again for probably about the last 2 months or so. And it's got its pros and cons as well. And I finally am at a place where I realize like, it doesn't matter what works for anybody else. It's like an experiment and a loving relationship with yourself and truly, truly finding out what works for you. Because one thing I discovered, for example, oatmeal jacks me up, makes me feel nice and like full, but it messes my gut up, right? And so my question to you is, what do you think was happening with me and my body as a biohacker when I was fasting for 23 hours, eating less than 1,200 calories a day, drinking, all of my protein and amino acids in supplement form? What do you think was going on?
Great story, great journey, and I love how your viewpoint is individualization and testing for yourself. And instead of saying this is what worked or didn't work for me, therefore it should work or shouldn't work for everyone else. I love this. So great mindset.
But even that was a journey in and of itself, because I used to be that guy. So yeah.
I mean, that's part of the progression. And it's like,
Sure.
It's funny when you have people pushing or being negative on socials, you can see where they're at by how they're pushing it. And then often people come back and say, actually, I did the vegan thing, or I did the carnivore thing, or did whatever, and I now realize it was not good for me. Sorry. And the amount of times I hear this is just ridiculous. So It's part of the journey. What's happening for you, particularly in my opinion, is that your body is in a constant state of survival, not thriving, surviving. It's like, as the calorie deficit, I mean, calorie is a calorie, as they say, calories in versus calorie out, but there's quality calories and there's bad quality calories. And it's a rough measure of energy, nothing more. It doesn't attach, this is a good calorie, this is a bad calorie, this will help me, this won't, blah, blah, blah. And there's information attached to each calorie, but we don't go into that because it's just a heuristic. So first of all, you're in a calorie deficit. To put it as a simple thing, means not enough energy. So your body is having to burn and having to do everything it can to get enough energy to live, because you're not getting it from your food. And depending on the country you're in, not enough from the sun. Because as you know, when you go to a hot country on holiday, you need to eat less. You eat a salad. You don't eat like seal meat when you're in a hot country. But Eskimos do, for obvious reasons. It's energy-dense food. So the point is, your body is in survival mode, which also means that when you're asleep, your liver is probably mobilizing glycogen, energy, and waking you up or making you sleep light, which is also looking out for threats as well. So your body, so for instance...
I get that.
So a lot of people actually that fast, say for instance, 12, 14, 16-hour fasts, and they don't eat after sunset, such as I did this for quite a while actually, have a teaspoon of honey before bed, actually the blood sugar raises, the liver doesn't need to mobilize glycogen, and they sleep better for it. So it's basically your body is just... You're testing something and your body's going, I'm just hanging on for dear life here. Like, I'm doing whatever I have to do to get by. And then when you have that food, it's like, for a little while. And if you were to track your blood glucose and your insulin response and things, you'll see that it's great to a point. The other thing is that what you're doing is by fasting so much is fantastic for your digestive system, for sure. Like it is having most of the day to repair and not a lot of things that would damage it in the meantime. So it's always catching back up with the damage it's probably had done for years. Great for digestive system, bad for you for your energy and your health. The other thing is that when you do go into serious, like cutting, not having enough foods, for instance, we know that if you don't have enough minerals in your diet or in your water, your body will start leaching it from your bones. Okay? If you don't have enough sunlight, vitamin D, enough vitamin K, this is where osteoporosis, osteopenia comes from. Because it is saying, I need these minerals to keep the body's electrical system going. So the bones become weaker and weaker and weaker. You start having sunlight, you start having, which gives vitamin D, which is a hormone. You start having vitamin K from various sources. And silica, these bones start repairing again. The body doesn't need the minerals so much from the bones and they become stronger again, which is how you reverse osteopenia, osteoporosis. Actually, I have done so with my mother, which is why I can speak about it in detail. Because you're in survival mode for so long, there would be a lot of deficiencies that come. And then your body will crave to counterbalance it afterwards. So you might find that you have to have a lot more meat or a lot more nutrients or whatever for a period of time until it comes back into homeostasis again.
I feel like I'm right there right now.
Yeah. So it's a great test. And, you know, for me, I had the similar thing with being vegan, actually. If you saw the pictures of me before, I was drawn in, super skinny. It's like, and then the funny thing is the exact point to your point about being stronger for your family to protect them. I had this conversation with my girlfriend yesterday. She's like, well, why are you working out now? Why are you pushing it hard in the gym? I was like, if we are to have a family, and also I've been single for so long prior to her, I want to be strong. So if something happens, I can protect you or my kid. It's not about the aesthetics thing, but I feel more whole, I feel more connected, and I feel like I'm a provider.
For sure.
Just for working out. Thing is, when I was vegan, my body was surviving, not thriving. And now, the more I train, and I'm now doing 3 days a week, my body fat has come down naturally. My muscle mass has gone up naturally. My eating habits have changed because we crave that which we need, unless it's processed and it tricks our tastes, our senses to think that we need it. And my sleep has gone up because it needs more time to repair naturally. And I've changed nothing other than, okay, I need a steak today, or I need, I feel like I need chicken breast, or actually I need to avoid meat today because of whatever. And I think this is where, and I'm going to touch on the point why these Aura rings or ultra human rings or sleep trackers like, BioStrap or Whoop or whatever are so important. Because until you start tracking something, well, the saying is what you don't measure, you can't manage. And I notice, and I use 2 different devices at the moment to track my sleep and my recovery. And I'm actually moving over to Ultra Human Ring just because it's more accurate in my opinion. But my intuition becomes fine-tuned by looking at the data every day. And at some point you can let it go. And you say, I know that I feel like my sleep score is about 80 or 90%, 85 to 90% today. And I look and I'm like, yes. But when I first started wearing it, I had no idea. I just felt, I feel good, I feel bad, binary. So tracking foods, tracking calories, tracking macros, tracking sleep, all of these things help our intuition become better. And obviously you are tracking to some extent, but you've also been tracking subjectively based on what you're eating and how you feel. So what I would say is, what does your intuition say? Because really in your heart, you already know.
You already know. That's right. That's right. It's so interesting you say that because it's the same with, it's the same with all things, with relationships, with money, with it's all the answers in you. The answers in you. Hey guys, before you continue listening, I wanted to introduce you to the sponsor of this episode, Athletic Greens. I decided to give AG1 a try because I wanted a supplement that actually tastes great, boosts my energy, and supports my immune system. Especially for someone like myself that fasts all day, I take it in the morning before starting my day, and it makes me feel incredible. It makes me feel like I'm doing something good for my body. It also helps me save an enormous amount of time, and it makes my life so much easier with just 1 scoop in the morning. So it makes it a very seamless and easy daily habit for me. Just 1 serving of this stuff, AG1, supports my long-term gut health. It has 75 high-quality vitamins in it, minerals, and whole food source ingredients. So if you're looking for a simple and cost-effective supplement routine, Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of their vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. So just go to athleticgreens.com/Danny. That's athleticgreens.com/Danny and go check it out today. So where would someone begin? Before you answer that one more thing, water. Gosh, water. There's a big one there. It's so interesting, but because in the US, I go through a company called Alive Water where they get water from natural springs and they bring it in these beautiful crystal/glass jugs. So it's not in plastic. And, we have become so accustomed to our water being in plastic. And so for the human beings that are out there listening, that are drinking their water from a plastic container right now, talk to me about how that is not the most ideal place to be storing your water.
The devil is in the detail on this one. It's so complicated, but it's so simple. Obviously, we evolved being able to stick our faces into streams and drinking a few times a day, not carrying around a 2-liter, 3-liter bottle of water and needing this much water. So that's the first thing. So if we think back evolutionarily speaking, how much or little did we drink? Now, we didn't drink the sea because of the salt content. We drink fresh stream water, which has come through rocks. It's perfect. It's structured. It's alive. And when you look at the structure of the water that comes from stream sources, you'll see it is completely different structure to that of tap water, which is actually dead water. And there's an account on Instagram, and I'll share it with you after this, where they freeze water in a like a pipette glass jar and put something underneath it like a leaf or a coin, and the water takes up the structure of the thing below it. Tap water, it doesn't work. Spring water, it does. So water is far more powerful than we can imagine. It has minerals, electrolytes, which fuel our electrical system. So it turns our veins and blood into our wiring. If you drink tap water, which is low in minerals and high in contaminants, we are not getting the minerals, so our electrical system is stressed. Okay. If you have the right level of minerals, we retain water better and we pee less. And we only need to drink more when we're low. We don't need to just keep on drinking because we're thirsty. So if we're drinking low mineral water, we need to drink more water to get the level of minerals that we actually need for our bodies to operate correctly.
But at the same time, you're drinking more contaminants.
Exactly. If you're drinking tap water, yeah. So plastic bottle water, obviously they say it comes from spring, whatnot. Well, actually the quality of the water is actually pretty poor. And there's several documentaries and many sources online where you can look at where they draw this water from. And often it's away from villages, so the villages don't have their own water supply. And it's taken all the way upstream and they call it spring water, when it's generally not. So not only is it not particularly great water, it's also unethical in many cases, but then it's put into plastic bottles. Now, we know that plastic is carcinogenic. We know this. Like, BPA is one of the chemicals that they're starting to reduce or remove, because people have an awareness around BPA. There's multiple others. Just because it hasn't got that one chemical doesn't mean that there's not others that are dangerous. The problem is that plastic in itself, isn't ideal. But the structure of the water is different when it comes from a plastic bottle. We get chemicals in the plastic bottle. What's even worse is when that plastic heats up, it leaches more contaminants into the water. So we're drinking low mineral or okay mineral, plastic fueled water. So it stacks up. But glass bottle water, the glass is cleaned with detergents before the water's put in it. What do we do?
So pick your poison.
Exactly. Pick your poison. So I have some plastic bottles. If I'm traveling for convenience and I need water, I'm not going to avoid a plastic bottle. I really care very little, as long as it's the exception, not the rule. I try to go for glass ones because I know that that's better, but it still has detergents in there. What I like to use is a reverse osmosis water filter system, which I have an under-counter one at home. My brand of choice is AquaTrue, no affiliate.
Alkaline, reverse osmosis. What's
no.
the difference?
So,
I've heard
well,
alkaline is bullshit.
Yeah. I mean, it's been debunked. I mean, there is some stuff out there that says it can be good, and advocates of alkaline water would fight to the death that it's the best thing in the world.
Sure.
Reverse osmosis is basically a water filtration, purification process. It strips everything out of it. You have to remineralize it afterwards, such as with a pinch of Celtic sea salt, which gives it 78 to 82 trace elements and minerals back into the water. So it's very, very easy. You can do it with city water, and you just replace the filter every 6, 12 months, whatever. That's my thing of choice. I then have a soda stream, so I can add sparkles to it, because it just gets boring just drinking plain water. And then I add magnesium drops as well into it. So it's mineral rich and tasty. And I actually crave that. And I'm deficient in magnesium generally, for whatever reason.
I hear that we all are.
Apparently 70% of people are.
Yeah.
I think it's probably more than that. I do know that when I have magnesium IV, my body relaxes extremely well. I sleep much better. But also, when your stress is high, you burn through more magnesium. And we're all living a stressed life compared to, nature.
Yeah.
So the devil is in the detail. And I like the idea of yours. Did you say it was a live water?
Live water was the name of it.
It's a great idea. I mean, it sounds like an a Cali thing more than a UK thing.
Yeah.
But the point is pick your poison. I think reverse osmosis is a good all day, everyday fix.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know. So as we end here, what would be the cheat sheet? For me, I feel like I've always been pretty conscious of health and the system and all of what the system gives us to make us not ourselves. But if someone's out there is brand new and they're like, oh man, like this is serious. I gotta start taking care of my health better, right?
Mm.
What would be like the foundational, the basic cheat sheet? Like, where do you start?
Very good question. It can be overwhelming. And a lot of people think there's so much to do that they just don't do anything. Eat well, sleep well, hydrate well, ground well, love well, relate well, sun well. I mean, these are the basic things that we need. The technologies are great, but they're just distractions. Like, if you're not eating well and sleeping well and grounding well and loving well and hydrating well, moving well, like, that's where you start. It's those basics. I call them the fundamentals of health, actually. And the amount of people that come to me and say, Tim, what peptide should I take? Or which probiotic should I take? Or which, whatever should I take? And I say, are you doing these 10 things? And they're like, no. Okay. You know where to start.
Start there. I love that. How do people learn more about you?
Follow me on Instagram, Tim Biohacker, or check out the Health Optimisation Summit, currently in the UK, London every year, soon to be in the US.
The Health Optimization Summit.
Yes.
Beautiful. Thanks for being here, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. I hope you guys got it. Biohacking with Tim Gray. That's it for this week's episode of The Higher Self. We will see you next week on another episode. Thanks for watching this week's episode of The Higher Self. If you heard something in this week's episode that caused you to think maybe, just maybe, there was a higher potential for your life, maybe there was a potential to earn and receive financial freedom, to attract the relationship of your dreams, or to improve your health, that's what we specialize in. We help wonderful human beings like yourself to unravel all of the limiting thoughts, feelings, and emotions that you've been living through so that you can finally tap into your life's truest potential. If you'd like to talk more about that, we invite you to join us on Instagram or Facebook and email us the word discover more. And when my team sees that, they will reach out to you, send you the details of how we could help you on your pathway to a life of abundance, fulfillment, and creating the absolute life of your dreams. Message us right now the words discover more now on Instagram or Facebook, and we'll see you soon.